What's up, the General Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the Big 10 college football betting preview part 2. I'm Stuckey, and joining me, as always, my fellow BBOC co-host, Collin WIlson. If you missed it, part 1 is already out. We covered Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, USC, Indiana, Michigan, Nebraska, Washington, and Illinois. In this part, we will cover Iowa, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Minnesota, Michigan State, UCLA, Northwestern, Maryland, and last but not least, or maybe at least, Purdue. Got a lot to get to, so let's just jump right back in. Let's start with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Under 7.5 juice. I think best if you wanted to go under is minus 145 out there, plus 760 to make the college football playoff. 45-1 to win the conference is the best price that you'll find out there. This is a team that's Iowa's going to rely on development. Look, they only brought in like just a handful of lower level transfers. That's it. This is Iowa. They're not going to go in and it's not Ole Miss. It's the complete opposite approach. They rely on developing their players. They rely on coaching stability, which they still have. And they did go in, even though he's a lower level player, they might have their best quarterback since, I don't know, Ricky Stanzi and Mark Gronowski. They brought him in from South Dakota State. We'll see if he can make the leap, if he can stay healthy for the whole season. That's certainly a question. But that's the bullish case with Iowa. Do they have a quarterback? Do they have a passing attack? Now, do they have the wide receivers? That's a question. They are all back, which is good. Gill, Vandersea, Wetkin, Anderson. They added Phillips from Chattanooga. Like, that's what you're going to get with Iowa. Can their wide receivers take that next step? They lose a tight end to the NFL, but they have 2 other guys back. Their offensive line should be a strength. You have a really, really good right tackle and center. Your left guard is back. They did lose 2 to the NFL. You lost a left tackle and a right guard. The left tackle is the one for me to watch. It's probably Dotzler. That's the position that I'm really watching to see how that plays out. I like their projected starter at right guard, but left tackle is what I'm watching there. But the offensive line has potential. It just comes down to Gronowski and can these receivers take that next step. I also should mention that they lost their entire offense from last year. Caleb Johnson to the NFL, who went to the Steelers. Moulton takes over. Can he take that next step? Probably going to be a drop-off. They're going to need Gronowski and those receivers to do more this year. Defensively, it was a down year for Phil Parker and his unit, a rare down year. They gave up too many easy completions. There was no negative plays. So, you lose, and now you lose 2 defensive linemen, your top 2 linebackers, 3 defensive backs. The defensive line, I think, still should be okay. Linebackers, you're relying on depth stepping up because if you include the nickel, they lost Castro, Jackson, and Higgins to the NFL. So they're super inexperienced at the linebacker position. In the secondary, Lee and Hall, they have to improve at cornerback. And then at safety, Lutmer, Entriger, they need to step up. But I like them, and I like their talent. Probably take safety a nickel role. Barrows maybe is in the mix from South Dakota. We'll see. And then the special teams, they're going to be elite. They're all back. Weegan is back as the return man, and it's just Iowa. They're probably going to win games on special teams. But they did lose 9 guys who are now currently on NFL rosters. But can they get a wide receiver that can just get 500 yards? They haven't had that happen since 2019. Insane. Last year, they had a very easy schedule. They played 7 of the bottom 8 and only 1 of the top 6. That was the year for Iowa. They had a lot of expectations with that team, but the defense just didn't live up to expectations, and the offense was just Johnson. That was it. This year, they have to play 5 of the top 7, and they get none of the bottom 4. So the schedule definitely gets tougher, although they do avoid Michigan and Ohio State, and Indiana, Oregon, and Penn State come to Iowa. So there's going to be some opportunities for them to pull off some upsets since they do get 5 Big 10 home games. Look, this is a team, I think the floor is like 4 or 5. The ceiling is 9. Ferentz usually does best when there's not a ton of expectations, and maybe that's the case this year. It's going to come down to development in some of these guys and what Gronowski is. I have him with a lot of coin flips. I mean, I have 9 single-digit spreads projected, 4 spreads under 3. Like, every game is winnable or losable besides, Albany and UMass? Like, look at every game on the schedule. Would it shock you if they beat Penn State at home in a good spot? I mean, not really. Probably be a double-digit dog, but not crazy underdog. They get Oregon at home. Like, they could win or lose almost every game on the schedule, and then you get 2 free wins against UMass and Albany at home. A lot of variance here. What are you seeing with Iowa? We know the special teams will be good. Does the defense have that bounce back year? I mean, last year they lost 3 games when leading by double digits.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to last year, to fairness, they were 74-2 when leading by double. They only lost 2 games before last year when leading by double digits. Lost 3 last year. So there are some questions on this team. Like I said, left tackle, what Gronowski's going to do. They definitely lost some talent on the back 7 of that defense. What are you seeing with the Hawkeyes? Win total 7.5.
Well, the good news for Iowa Hawkeye fans is Gronowski did not play in the spring game because of injury, but he is in camp and he is, for all things that I've read, okay and practicing just fine. 93 touchdowns, 20 interceptions in 4 years for the Jacks, a low 2% turnover-worthy play rate. So you're getting a real quarterback, which is very important for Iowa football for the first time in quite a while. He's getting his timing down with his receivers. We'll see how that pans out because the depth chart for receivers is just a complete mystery right now. Caleb Johnson does go to the NFL. I have a problem with this offensive line. I had it towards the end of last year. I still have it here. They're getting their interior of their offensive line back. There are questions out at tackle about who's going to fill those roles. Kamari Moulton is going to take over 3.
Dunker's good at right tackle.
Right. Kamari Moulton, 3.6 yards after first contact, is going to be the workhorse back here. But I said this at the end of the season last year. Caleb Johnson's yards all came because of Caleb Johnson. Iowa's offensive line was horrible, 80th in line yards. It was all highlight yards that was created by Caleb Johnson. So I think it's a good thing that Kamari Moulton was 3.6 yards after first contact because he's going to have to probably create his own yards again. And that's the reason, I would love to say Iowa's going to upset teams that are soft on the interior from a run defense perspective. Like Oregon's on the schedule. There are teams like that don't have the defensive tackles or the nose tackles that can handle that. But at the same time, I've got to see a push out of the interior of this offensive line because it wasn't there last year. And everything you saw from Caleb Johnson came because of him and not because of his offensive line creating space. So that's a bigger question for me than who Gronowski is going to throw to on the outside. The defensive line might be the best in the Big 10. 6 of the 8 in the 2 deep return. 2 Havoc defensive tackles from Central Michigan, a freshman All-American out of South Dakota State. We'll see if they can fill the role and have enough size in there in the interior. There is turnover at the linebacker position, and corner Deshaun Lee returns 7 PBUs and an interception. So I do like what they return on defense, but there's just a massive amount of coin flips on this schedule, like you said. I mean, Iowa State coin flip, at Rutgers, Indiana, Whiskey, USC, Nebraska, almost all of them are road games too. So, you're kind of hoping that the Hawkeyes show up on the road because almost all these coin flips are. In the last 10 years, Ferentz, 30-16 against the spread on the road. Iowa shows up on the road. They always have. And he always covers the number at a high clip of about 66%. So I think Iowa can go over their win total. I make the 7.3, the number in the market, over 6.5, minus 170, or you can get an alternative. I'd rather do an alt 7 at minus 120 or minus 110. But I do think that they are a 7-win team. They have potential to make upsets on the road. Ferentz is covered the spread like crazy the last 10 years on the road. So questions for me are, can you push the pile? We'll find out against Iowa State.
Yeah, I'm a little lower than you, like 6.5, but I don't think I'm going under. There's just so many coin flips, and then you have the Iowa voodoo. And I'm just totally not. I'm not completely confident in what my thinking is on Gronowski.
Do you know what the problem is, Chuck? The problem with returning experience is you take Gronowski's numbers and you plug them in the Iowa offense, and then it makes it look like you have 1,000% returning and passing yards, and that's an issue that this portal has been biting on with TARP for 3 years now, right? Because it's not every yard is the same at FCS as it is at FBS, right? It's not even the same, the gap between G5 and Power 4 anymore. It's you just can't plug yards and say that's what we have, and that's affecting win totals. And I think that's where there's a gap between you and me, right? Because if you consider Gronowski's numbers and say, yeah, that applies, that's how you can probably get a little ahead of your skis on Iowa football.
Yeah, I do think the defense, I trust Parker. I think the defense bounces back, but linebacker super inexperienced, and then the corner, Lee and Hall, they just got to be better on the outside, because I do like the safety group.
They finished 27th in creating contested catches. So I do think that's going to keep playing on for Parker.
Yeah, Harris has gone to the NFL at corner, but Dwanka's back at safety. I like Lutmer and Trigger. I think they have a ton of potential, but that corner duo has to play better for sure. But the special teams will be really good. They're probably going to steal a game or two, but a lot of coin flips and a big range of outcomes for what this team could be. But will be interesting to watch. Like an exciting quarterback to watch at Iowa. Who would have ever thought? By the way, so you'll start to see us loading in some bets, continue to loading in some bets in the app. And as a reminder, if you want to see every college football pick track from me, Collin, and Duck this season, you need the Action Network app. We've got some huge improvements, some things that I'm really excited about, and updates coming in the weeks ahead, which we're excited to discuss in a few weeks. But to get the most out of the app, you'll need to be an Action Pro subscriber. With Action Pro, you get real-time pick alerts from our entire Action Network team of experts, plus Action Pro projections, powered by Sean Kerner and our predictive analytics team. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. BBOC listeners can save $20 off the annual price of Action Pro. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro and use code BBOC20. That's actionnetwork.com/pro and use code BBOC20 for $20 off the annual price of Action Pro. All right, let's go to the Golden Gophers in Minnesota. Win total out there, you can get an under 7 at plus money. Under 7 plus 115. I think if you want to go under, they're 125 to 1 to win the Big 10, 13 to 1 to make the college football playoff. This is a team last year that I loved betting. I loved their defense. I loved Brosmer, who really started to come on. He's now with the Vikings towards the end of the year. Major questions now at quarterback. It's going to be redshirt freshman Lindsey as the guy for the Gophers. You got your workhorse back in Taylor in the backfield. You had Turner and Davis as well. It's a good backfield. But wide receiver, you lose Jackson and Spencer, who were 80% of your targets last year. And you bring in some transfers, Coleman, Loya, and Tracy. I think there's a drop-off there. Maybe Coy Parrish, their defensive back, who is going to get some look at wide receiver, too, as a potential two-way player. We'll see. Offensive line, you lose Ursery, your left tackle, to the NFL, your left guard, Cooper, to the NFL, your right tackle, Carroll. They had 100-plus combined Big 10 starts. It looks like, Beers is going to move from guard to center. Your center's back moving to left guard. You're going to have 5 at a new position, it looks like, for Minnesota on the offensive line. 80% of your targets gone. Now a redshirt freshman quarterback. And this is an offensive system where the coordinator, Harbaugh, asks a lot of the quarterbacks. Now you're going to have super inexperienced guy. That could be problematic. Defensively, you lose your 2 defensive ends to the NFL. Your interior's back, but they're pretty thin overall. Linebacker, you lost Lindenberg to the NFL. You have a couple guys back. You had Roberson from Oak State, meh. And then in the defensive backfield, you lose both your corners to the NFL, your nickel back to the NFL. Your safety group is pretty good, but your cornerback room is way down. I'm also worried about their special teams, which could be way down. In fairness, the offensive line could not block last year for the run game. They had a couple guys went to the NFL. They just couldn't block. They were 111th in line yards, lowest by far at Minnesota in the past 15 years. But I'm not sure they fixed that with who they brought in. Like the tight end room is decent. So maybe you're going to see some more usage of the tight ends. But I don't know. There's a lot of questions on this team. There's 10 players lost to the NFL, 6 on defense. The good thing is, if you're the bullish case for Minnesota is their schedule. You have 5 Big 10 home games. You go to Ohio State, Iowa, and Oregon. Those are probably going to be losses. And then your wins are probably Buffalo, Northwestern State at home. And then let's call Purdue at home a win. That's 3-3. Then you got 6 coin flips, basically, which I have projected them all the spreads between 0 and 4.5. In 5 of those 6, they're favored, but 4 of them, it's by less than a field goal. So there's 6 coin flips there. In order to get over this total of 7, if you assume 3-3 with the 3 easy wins, the 3 road losses to Iowa, Ohio State, and Oregon. They got to go 5-1 in those games. I don't see it. I know that there's a lot of winnable games on the schedule, but I project them. I'm 6.25 under for me. I think it's going to be a long year for the freshman quarterback with a retooled offensive line. 80% of his targets gone. And then they lost a lot of talent on that defense. Cornerbacks to the NFL, your 2 defensive ends to the NFL. I think this is a down year for Minnesota, who has their 3rd defensive coordinator in 3 years. Now, it is an internal hire. Heatherman's gone, who I really liked. Shouldn't be too much of a schematic change, but I'm down on this Minnesota team this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is like I think they probably get to a bowl, but I think this is a 6-6 team.
So I've been waiting for this moment to talk to you about this because I have the same feelings, but I'm taking a completely different angle. And I've specifically been waiting to ask you this question. And then I'm going to tell a story about the offense. And then I'm going to ask you the question again. Is Minnesota going to lose in week 1 against Buffalo? On this offense, quarterback Drake, I already saw your face. The quarterback Drake Lindsey beat out Georgia Tech transfer Zach Pyre, and he took off, went off to South Alabama. So there's not a lot of depth there, and we don't know who really is going to play quarterback and if they'll be efficient. But Minnesota's only good as that offensive line. And Darius Taylor may need to create all the highlight yards because there was going to be one starter in offensive line with 24 career starts. Then the portal brought in 55 starts. And you think, oh, good, they're bringing in 55 starts. And then you go and look at some of these guys. Guard Marcellus Marshall from Kent State. Terrible. He was 160th of all guards in PFF.
Ray from
guard Dylan Ray.
Terrible.
You want to guess his ranking in guards? He was 525th for Kentucky in PFF grading of guards.
And then the Washington left tackle is also really bad.
Yes, redshirt freshman blindside tackle Nathan Roy. All right.
No, Tafai from Washington.
Oh, yeah, I'm saying there's also a redshirt freshman, like, it's supposed to be lining up a blindside tackle. Like, I'm telling you that every single one of these guys, if you just look at it and say, oh, they brought in 55 starts on the offensive line for the portal, I'm telling you, people, if you want next-level handicapping, quit listening to other people. I'm telling you, this offensive line is really bad. It's not just bringing in 55 starts. It's 55 shitty starts. So I started the handicap with a question. I'm coming back to you because you just did the MAC podcast. And I know how good Buffalo is, because I'm down watching Mike Washington at practice here at the University of Arkansas, just tearing shit up, right? I know what they're doing at Buffalo, and I know how good they're supposed to be in the trench from a MAC perspective. So I proposed it as the start of this, and I'm going to end this with this, because I'm with you on the under, but I'm not going to play it. But I might play, is Buffalo beating Minnesota outright in week 1?
I mean, it wouldn't shock me. There's it's week 1, and like Minnesota's with a redshirt freshman quarterback. Buffalo's bringing back a lot. Could be a huge special teams advantage for Buffalo in that game. Although Buffalo has some questions there, but Pete Lembo, I think, will figure it out.
We love Pete Lembo.
Yeah. It wouldn't completely shock me. No. For as far as in terms of how 17-point underdogs go.
Hasn't Pete Lembo with Ball State not faced Fleck like a billion years ago? I I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going under. I don't know if I'm going under 7.5 juiced or under 7+ money.
I'm playing Buffalo week 1.
Yeah, I'll probably be on Buffalo week 1 too. All right, let's move on to let's go to Wisconsin. Interesting season here for Luke Fickell. Wisconsin, you could find over 5 minus 140 out there if you wanted to go over. That's the best price, but their implied win total is around 5.3, 5.25, 35 to 1 to make the playoffs, 150 to 1 to win the conference. Look, they bring a ton back, top 20 returning production. And because they added a quarterback also from Maryland and Billy Edwards, who I think does fit with the Grimes system.
Yep.
Will he stay healthy? I mean, Fickell hasn't had a quarterback stay healthy all year once in 3 years. But Grimes is going to implement the RBO offense, reliable, violent offense, a lot of misdirection, wide zone, run to set up play action. So it's a better fit than what Phil Longo was trying to do. This fits with what Wisconsin wants to do. They do lose Walker at running back, but they need some young guys to step up. But that kid, what's his name? Yaconelli, he's an athletic freak. They might use him in a bunch of different ways. At wide receiver, you got a couple guys back, and you added Ballard from Ohio State, who's intriguing. Offensive line, right guard and left tackle, major questions. There's a battle at right guard. You lost your left tackle to the NFL and your right guard to the NFL. That's really what I'm watching there. Your other three are back. Defensively, it's three-man front is the base. You lost Neal and Lowry. Don't really care. They got a lot bigger. This is what I like what Wisconsin did. Last year they lost a couple of their defensive linemen to injuries, and they just didn't have a ton of size. They added Walker from Western Michigan. I like him. This is like the opposite end of the spectrum compared to Minnesota. I like some of these guys that they brought in. Suggs from LSU, Peterson from Tulane. Even Perkins has some intrigue. So they beefed up. They have more depth. Outside linebacker, bringing in Reiger if he's healthy from Louisville, can actually give them some pressure for once, maybe. And Peterson's back. Seems like he's trending up. They need some depth guys to step up in the interior because they lost Chaney and Thomas. And then in the defensive backfield, you have Hallman and Zachman back. They're solid. Forkerin, their other corner, he's not eligible. He might be because he's appealing it, so you're going to lose him at corner. You lost Wooler to the NFL. So you're going to need some guys to step up. They brought in Hill from Miami, Latimer from Jack State. We'll see who can step up there. Matt Mitchell, our producer, not our producer, but the outside linebacker coach and the special teams coach, he's on the hot seat along with Fickle. His job's on the line because both struggled really bad last year. They struggled immensely. Their special teams were bad. Their outside linebackers were bad. But I like what they did on that defensive in the front seven with their additions, and I think they could be much better. From a scheduling perspective, it's not easy. I will say they have the number one, depending on it's the number one hardest schedule in the country.
Yeah.
Good thing is they face 10 new quarterbacks. That's the second most. So there's some variance here, but they only get one of the projected bottom six. They don't play Purdue, Northwestern, UCLA, Michigan State, or Rutgers. And by the way, last year they only beat Northwestern, Purdue, and Rutgers in Big 10 play. They don't get any of those three. Bama and the non-con play 8 of the projected top 11, and they're on a run of 2-21 against ranked teams. They could face, depending on how things break, 8 ranked teams this year. There's no breaks after week 2. Maybe outside of Maryland at home, but we'll see what Maryland looks like with their retooled roster. You got to start 3-1. You got to beat Miami. You got to beat Middle Tennessee. You got to beat Maryland at home. You're going to lose at Alabama. So are there 3 more wins here? I don't know. I think they're going to be better than people think. Edwards has been better. If he stays healthy, he's been better than what they've had. If they can figure out left tackle, because it looks like, it could be a Matt guy. I'm not really sold there. But I think they're going to be much better in the front seven. This is a D that got no havoc last. 128th in havoc. 13 tackles for loss.
Yep.
Dead last. Wisconsin was dead last in the country tackles for loss. You know how many sacks they had? 17. Fewest since 1983. I think they will be better in that department. That will help the secondary, which has 2 mainstays back. They got to answer some other questions. But I like this team. I know the schedule is daunting. But I project them at 5.88. So, like an over 5 minus 140. Like, where are the wins coming? Like, there's some win. Illinois at home. I think Minnesota on the road is gettable. Washington at home is gettable. I wouldn't be surprised if they knock off Ohio State or in Iowa and Illinois. Like, I think this team's going to be better than people think, and that's because they really did improve the front seven of their defense. It's going to allow them to do a lot more. They just had nothing there last year. So, and as long as their quarterback stays healthy, which they're due for, I think Wisconsin is getting back to a bowl to start a new streak after their run of 18 straight bowls ended last year. What do you think of the Badgers?
One of the biggest victories you can have in your personal life is to know who you are and know what makes you tick. And
22-year bowl streak, by the way. Sorry. Yeah.
For why the Sam Hill they went to Longo, I could never figure it out. Wisconsin, you've always known who you are. You know what the state produces from a high school level, and you know what you're looking for. And then all of a sudden, a Longo offense. To getting Jeff Grimes is getting back to exactly what Wisconsin football is going to be. I think it's a great shift. The ground and pound is back. Billy Edwards has to stay healthy because he's going to play that Jalen Daniels role at Kansas, who had over 300 yards on designed runs last year for Kansas. So that's what Billy Edwards is going to be expected to do. Both second-year running backs, Darian Dupree, Dylan Jones, they list under 250 pounds. So it's not really the typical Wisconsin Ron Dane look that you're wanting to, out of this backfield. Can they handle a full season load? That's my worry, Stuck, is like the size of these running backs and then Billy Edwards and what they're going to do with their body. Do you survive the Alabama game? Are you healthy enough to win against Maryland the next week? You should be. You're going to be 20-point favorites. There are 3 returning starters in the offensive line. There's 111 starts. Is that a good thing? I mean, the big play. Their pass blocking was fine. Their line yards fell below top 50. That's going to improve here with Jeff Grimes and his schemes. Former offensive line coach before he was at Baylor, before when he was at BYU. So, I need to see remarkable improvement in the box score against Miami of Ohio, Middle Tennessee from a line yards perspective. I think then I'll be ready to bet them in other spots on the schedule. On the defensive side, one of the higher, I think why I make this 6.3 versus your number that's in the 5s is because of the experience that's coming back and the additions that are coming in through the portal. Their corners, for Corian, Ricardo Hallman, they had 9 combined PBUs. Outside linebacker Christian Allegro was the second leading tackler on the team, one of the best in the Big 10. And Tressel's 2-4-5 heavy defensive back scheme, it limits EPA. They were top 50 in defensive rushing pass EPA, but they didn't. You mentioned the havoc number, 128th. Like we're just not doing anything here about taking the ball away. That has to improve. 121st in contested catch rate. This is just fundamentals. I mean, in no way should a Wisconsin defense in a secondary be near bottom 15 and create a contested catch. So they've got to get back to fundamentals. We'll see if Tressel can get that done. You're right. The schedule doesn't get any easier for Fickell. Does the administration kind of give him a pass again? I mean, Bama in a non-con, at Michigan on October 4th, Iowa and Washington come to Camp Randall, both off of a bye week. Ohio State sandwiched in between.
At Oregon there too. There's no breaks after that Maryland game. After your bye week. That's my only concern. If they suffer, say they get upset or they're just floundering and the Fickell rumors start, does this team quit? Because there's no game where you're just all right, let me go out and we'll get the vibes back. It's just there's their last 8 are at Michigan, Iowa, off of a bye, Ohio State, at Oregon, Washington, at Indiana, Illinois, at Minnesota, and you get Minnesota on the road in the last game, who has a freshman quarterback. You prefer to have them earlier on.
But think about the size of the trenches for Indiana, Illinois, and Minnesota, right? And I go back to it again. You have 2 running backs that are listed at 215 pounds, and you have Billy Edwards. This isn't, I mean, you're getting your style back, Wisconsin, but you're not getting your size back at the positions that you need it the most. So is the administration patient enough with Fickell? They made a good move with Grimes. I'm not sure if he gets another year. Probably have to tap into some of the media resources that we have to find out where their temperature level is on Fickell. But I make it 6.3.
I like Fickell, but he just made a fatal flaw going with Grimes.
Yeah, completely.
That might end up costing.
And there's a lot of rumors out there floating around. Look at Fickell's assistants when he was at Cincinnati, right? Marcus Freeman, what he's doing at Notre Dame. So that is circulating. But I make it 6.3. I'd play over if I had to play the win total. Week 1.
Yeah, I'm probably going to play over. But it's there's also, like I said, there's 10 brand new quarterbacks on this roster. So, I mean, on their schedule. That introduces a lot of variance. Could this team... So, for example, how's Gronowski at Iowa? Where's Underwood by week 5 for Michigan? Maryland, true freshman quarterback. What's he look like? Ohio State. That's going to be in Madison. What's their quarterback situation look at the time? Oregon, what's their quarterback situation look like? You can go on and on. Minnesota, the freshman quarterback. So wide range of incomes because of all the new quarterbacks they faced. But from a numbers perspective, I like the over. And I really think the front 7 of the defense is going to be improved, and that'll help the entire operation. And maybe they'll get a quarterback that finally stays healthy.
Let me say one more thing on this. I think that number in week 1 is not a good number. I think it should be at least a touchdown higher against Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio, not returning a lot, not got a lot going on in the MAC. And I mean, you podcasted on them. I could talk about it more. But what Grimes wants to do, and with the health level they should be at in week 1, they should steamroll Miami of Ohio.
It's going to be a problem early on.
Right.
That's the only way I could look there. But we'll talk much more about that in week 0 and week 1 preview podcast. Let's move on to Rutgers. Rutgers win total, if you want to go over, best you can find it, over 5.5 minus 144. So implied you're getting close to 6. 25 to 1 to make the playoff, 250 to 1 to win the conference, best you can find out there. Look, the schedule gets much tougher. That's what I'm going to start with. There's last year, no Ohio State, no Oregon, no Michigan, no Penn State. Well, they get the top 3 this year. They play Oregon, they're at Ohio State, and they host Penn State to end the year. So the schedule gets much tougher. Can this team get to 3 straight bowls? That's basically what you're betting. If you want to bet the win total, got to pay a little juice for it. And if they do, they're probably going to the Pinstripe Bowl. And last year, by the way, they got Maryland and Sparty late in the year, who basically quit. And they were pretty lucky against Washington, as you know all too well.
Yep. Yeah.
This year, you do have Maryland late, but you're at Illinois, at Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, all in the second half of your schedule. So the schedule, I think, is just much tougher. So I think that they're going to go 3-0 non-conference.
Right.
Ohio, Miami, Norfolk. And in conference, your best shots at wins, probably good, at Purdue, Maryland. Can they get one more? Your best shots are home against Iowa, at Minnesota.
Yep.
They could face up to 6 ranked teams, probably 4 or 5, and they're 0-40 versus ranked teams since 2009. Crazy. They do have 5 winnable games to start, like those 3 non-con, Iowa, at Minnesota. That's good for a team bringing a ton back. And then when you consider that Iowa and Minnesota have new quarterbacks. So there's a chance they start 5-0. But then the schedule does get much tougher, although there's Purdue still left in there. Cali McManus is back. Experienced quarterback in the Big 10. That's good to have, although his ceiling isn't the highest. But he had a decent year last year.
Yeah.
Monangai, he's gone to the NFL. You bring in C.J. Campbell from FAU. Raymond is back. Running back room definitely be down a little bit. You lost some receivers, but Duff and Strong are back. You had Sheffield from North Texas. So I like this Rutgers wide receiver room. You brought in Partridge late. I think he could do some things from NIU. Black has some speed, so pretty good there. Mike, and then Fletcher, is he healthy at tight end? He flashed. Rutgers isn't a good tight end in 10 years. If he's healthy, maybe they actually have a tight end to rely on. Offensive line, the tackles are the biggest question for me. You lost your left tackle, Pierce, to the NFL. You might be starting. Needham, I'm not a huge fan of. He's got to step up. You might be starting a Lafayette transfer at left tackle in Langsdale. So you might be going from an NFL left tackle to a Lafayette transfer. Left tackle is a huge position to watch. Defensively, you lose some guys, but there were so many injuries. I like their additions on the defensive line. Really sharp ads, like JMU ads. The Weaver from Ohio I really like. They needed to get more pressure. Walker has to step up at linebacker next to Jabone, but if he does, the linebackers could be decent. A lot of injuries last year. And then the defensive backfield, you do lose a lot. Longerby to the NFL, Rogers to the NFL, Loyal to the NFL, Igbenasson to the NFL. And a lot of them went to the Ravens. They know how to identify secondary talent. So you lost 4 guys in the back end of the NFL. You had Miller from Penn State, who played last year for them at corner. Henderson from Marshall. Jet Elad. There are some eligibility questions. He's been around forever, but he's going to be needed at safety. Masco and Sanders are also back. So there's some talent here, but I think it's going to take a step back. They're going to need that defensive line to be better, and I do like some of the additions there. So this is a solid team. It's not going to win the Big 10. Schedule does get tougher. My biggest questions, how big is the drop-off at running back? Left tackle specifically. Can Walker improve at linebacker? And then their defensive line and their defensive backfield, it's going to come down to their transfers hitting. Mm-hmm. What do you see with Rutgers this year?
Well, the biggest handicap of Rutgers and why I continued to play them last year consistently all the time is they were top 5 in havoc allowed. They are extremely well coached under Greg Schiano with Kirk Soraka and then Rob Smith as a defensive coordinator. They're extremely well coached. They don't make mistakes. And last year they won 4 games outright as an underdog. So when you see a lot of coin flips on this, and we're asking after the first 3 in the non-con, can they get there to 6? My answer is yes. I'm taking over 5.5 minus 125. I
I would lean that way. I'm at 6.25 for what it's worth.
Yeah, I'm at 6.5, and so I have full confidence they're going to be able to keep that havoc allowed number within the top 5. Now, I have problems with Ethan Kaliak-Manis and his numbers. Even in Kirk Soraka's second season with him, he had an 18-7 TD to INT, but more turnover-worthy plays and big-time throws. And really, it was on blitz downs. When Kaliak-Manis sees blitz, his turnover-worthy play rate goes from 1.6 to 5.7%. Accuracy is a huge issue. Last year, Kaliak-Manis finished 123rd in on-target rate. You could not be any more inaccurate. So we'll see if that improves in his second year. I think it's been a problem in Minnesota. It was a problem at Rutgers last year. We'll see if that improves. Antoine Raymond had a similar missed tackle forced rate as Kyle Monangai. So if he can continue that, then the Rutgers rush should still be as potent. 2 of the top 3 receivers do return, and there's 106 career starts on the offensive line. I like that, with the 4th being ranked 4th in havoc allowed. Defensively, have some questions at the linebacker position. We have some questions in the secondary. I do like that they got
7 of their top 8 players. They went transfer heavy on D.
But I do like getting Jacoby Henderson from Marshall. I liked every defensive player that was on Marshall last year. So, they were 50th in tackle grading. That's coaching fundamentals. I expect that to stay. They were 50th in contested catch rate. That's coaching fundamentals. I expect that to stay. But, there are a lot of questions on the back end of that defense. They're going to cruise in the non-conference game, right? 2 MAC teams, Norfolk State. Both Iowa and Minnesota, you mentioned, they're winnable. There's 4 games they can't win, in my opinion. Oregon, Illinois, Penn State, Ohio State. I just think those are way too out of reach, unless Bert's having one kind of, he's on one and up in his bullshit with his play calling. I think those are 4 games that are out of reach, making the ceiling here 8. The Ohio State game is really supreme, right? Rutgers is off a bye. Ohio State is pre-Michigan. Like that's a game. If I could get a game of the year on that, I'd probably go in. I'd buy it at 18.5 if I could get it. So listen, I'm going over 5.5. I think the coaching staff makes the deficiencies we see in these numbers not mean as much, because every coach, everywhere Schiano goes, it's a very well coached team. So I'm going over 5.5. Numerous spots to get out of this, hedge spots as far as coin flips go. But at the same time, they won 4 games outright as underdogs. To me, that's coaching with this roster. So I'm going to take them over 5.5.
See what? Just transfers D, experienced O. The left tackle can hit. Their O should be solid. I like their weapons. But we'll see. I think you can trust the staff to get them to 6. But I'm at like 6.8. I mean, I'm at 5.8, 5. So that's like with juice. That's like right on market. So.
Imagine if Kaliak-Manis gets better.
Yeah, it's the second year of the system. There is a new DC here, but I don't think it's going to change much structurally. It's going to come down to the transfers. And I like the guys that they brought in. I think that they did a really good job in the portal on both sides of the ball. But the tackles do concern me on the offensive side after the loss of Pierce. All right, let's move on to let's talk a little Sparty. Best you could find out there if you want to go over 5.5 minus 135, 18 to 1 to make the college football playoff, 200 to 1 the best to win the Big 10. Implied win total is basically like 5.75, so you're betting on them, paying a little bit and betting on them if they're going to go to a bowl or not, if you want to bet their win total. The bullish case is this is year 2 of Smith and his coordinators, end of Aiden Childs at quarterback. You go through a full install. You have a year under your belt, and they're top 20 in returning production, just like Rutgers is. So they bring a ton back. The teams that are in the top 20 returning production in the Big 10 are Illinois, Wisconsin, Rutgers, and Michigan State. Childs is back. He needs to improve. A lot to work on. 13 big-time throws last year, 20 turnover-worthy plays. He needs to work on his timing, reading coverages, his sacks. He took too many sacks. The red zone, he needs to be better. He had fumbling issues. But he was pressured on 42% of his dropbacks. That was bottom 10 in the country. So he wasn't getting a ton of help. Does lose 2 backs to the NFL. They bring in Tolliver for Sac State, but their running back room probably takes a step back. Wide receiver, you lose Foster to the NFL and Johnson in North Carolina. Marsh is back. He's a stud. And they bring in some guys I like, namely McCray and Kelly. Velling back at tight end and your other top 2. I think their pass catchers could actually be improved. Your offensive line, you lose your top two by far in Miller and Newman, who went to the NFL. Baldwin's gone, but he was bad. You bring in some transfers. Goldman from Wake Forest, I like. Vincent, Oregon State, he has familiarity. Moore from Montana State. Can he step up here? They do have a good offensive line coach, but the offensive line was just so bad last year.
Injured and freshmen, yeah.
Yeah, injured. The same thing happened on the defense. They got, like in the secondary, they got a lot of freshmen who got some time. They were killed by injuries. They got some freshmen who had some experience. Defensive line, you lost a bunch, but who really cares? Thompson comes back. You added some guys in the portal. It's still a big question. Linebacker, you lost a 4-year starter in Halliday. You lost Turner to the NFL. They need guys like Hall and Matthews to step up. Snow, who I do like. You also lost your nickel, who was a 4-year starter. Although I will say, like Halliday and Gross, they were there forever, but they weren't really that great. Like they were just starters forever. I don't think those are huge losses. You have senior safeties, and then you're going to be relying on some transfer corners. Eaton from Texas State. Bell, who I do like, but from UConn, an EIU transfer. Like this is a team that just didn't bring in. They brought in a lot of guys in the portal, but a lot are lower level. They're not recruiting very well. But the defense just, I like some of the defensive line adds. They need to get more pressure. They went 6 straight games without a sack last year. So we'll see. You got to remember last year they lost both stud defensive tackles in the spring. It was a disaster post Tucker. So how much of a bump can Jonathan Smith, who we both respect, give them in year 2? Mm-hmm. Last year was a new quarterback, brand new offense, brand new defense, ton of injuries. They still won 5. That they just got to get a better run game, and they got to get more pressure. I'm not sure they fully addressed either. They got to be better in the red zone on both ends. So this is a tricky team to figure out. There's no easy road games. Like at USC, at Nebraska, at Indiana, at Minnesota, at Iowa. So like their ceiling is probably 7. The swing game is probably BC in week 2 at home. Like that, I would assume that might end up determining whether they go to a bowl or their win total. They only have 3 Big 10 home games in Spartan Stadium, and Michigan and Penn State are 2 of them. So they only get 2 of the bottom 7 in the Big 10. So it's definitely not an easy schedule. Maryland is at Ford Field to close the year. We'll see where they're at. They get Minnesota kind of towards the end, which I think is worse than getting them early. I don't know. I mean, my numbers are right on. I'm 5.73, so nothing for me. But if I had to, I mean, I would trust Smith to get them to a bowl, but there's a lot to work on here. It's just not a very talented roster overall.
Who has the better year 2 jump, Jed Fish or Jonathan Smith?
Fish.
Yeah, I agree. I don't make this to win total even up at 5. And I think a part of me, I'm looking at all the numbers and all the data. I mean, you mentioned the 143 pressures for Childs. Like you kind of just scrap the numbers, the 13 big time throws and 20 turnover. You just kind of scrap it. I mean, 143 pressures for this kid.
Yeah, their tackles were so bad. And their tackles are only guys back on the offensive line. And they were so bad. Granted, one of them was a freshman starting, but.
Right. So, 126 in pass blocking. If you see improvement on that, Child's numbers obviously will improve, and then their power rating will improve. So I think it's one of those games. I think it's one of those teams where the Spartans can come out against Western Michigan, and it could be one of those power rating jumps by like 5 points in the first week if I see what I want to see. And then again with Boston College next week, maybe you and I are not so loud about it, and the gambling market isn't as heavy on it. And maybe we see something in the box that allows us to get in against Boston College, and we're rising the PRs even more. That's the ceiling, and that could blow away my win total numbers. But at the same time, this Tolliver kid coming in from Sac State, this isn't Scattaboo. I mean, 2.8 yards after first contact. He only created 33 missed tackles on 182 rushing attempts. That is not a high rate of juking and getting guys out of the way. Now, Nick Marsh, you're right, 2.1 yards per route run. He's the connection that Childs needs. So we'll see if they can connect there, but the offensive line play has to get better. And if they are, then you can scrap all of these preseason numbers, and we'll see what the new Michigan State projection is going to be. Both safeties, Malik Spencer and Nikai Martinez, come back, 4 PBUs. All right, so the coverage numbers were 126, so they could not create any contested catches whatsoever, but they were very good in tackling, top 50 in tackling. They were good at stopping the run, 21st in defensive rushing success rate. Though, is that what's going to return here? They should continue that. There's a number of 300-pounders listed in the depth chart at defensive tackle. Joe Rossi, we mentioned Minnesota, what they're going through. His 4-3 hybrid with a stand-up edge is going to come in. That could be Jalen Thompson. The Havoc numbers were just not there at all last year. 99th in Havoc. You mentioned the sack rate. Pass rush was 129th. Again, if you get the proper number of players, if you get defensive tackles that are 300 pounds that are creating pressure, then you wipe away all of these numbers that they had last year, because it was year 0, year -1. There's only 4 Big 10 home games here. And, you mentioned ones at Ford Field. Penn State, Michigan, those are 2 of the home games that they're going to have, and they only have 4 of them. And so that really limits you in your ceiling of what you can do here. I don't expect them to beat Michigan or Penn State. I know that you're a little more optimistic about that rivalry game, but I don't think those are 2 games that they can win at all, and that accounts for half of their conference games. I don't expect them to be within 2 touchdowns in 6 of 8 conference games. UCLA and Maryland at home, that's the potential to get to 4 and 5 wins on this schedule. BC non-con, like I said, if you have a PR bump, you can beat them. Right now, I make Michigan State +3. So I'm going under here, under 5.5. I think it's still out there at plus money, +115, I think in some places. But I'm ready to move them in their projection if we see the proper things that we need in the box score from a line yards perspective, from a pass blocking perspective, and from creating pressures on the defense.
Yeah, we're way off in our starting power rating with Michigan. Like I had Michigan State favored over BC, but
By how much?
4. But I'm low on BC, and I'm giving Michigan State benefit of the doubt some places. I could be off.
Tolerant does not have the numbers from Sac State. Like I really like when
their running back room is definitely worse off. They're going to need Childs to take the next step, and they have some things to figure out on the offensive line as well. Like I said, they lost their top 2 by far in the interior. Their tackles come back, but they're awful. They're going to need some of these transfers to hit. But we'll see. They were definitely snake bit last year in a number of ways, but Childs has got to be better. We'll see what Smith can do in year 2. All right, let's move on to UCLA. It's a pass for me, by the way. I'm right on market. UCLA, year 2 of Deshaun Foster, head coach. There is a new OC, Dino Sinceri, who comes in from Indiana. Their DC last year, after D'Anton Lynn, I'm probably going to pronounce his name wrong. Ikaika Malloy, I think. He did a great job, I thought. But he had a lot of talent. A lot of talent that went to the NFL. 5 drafted to the NFL from this defense, which was so underrated. You lost your defensive tackle. Well, they lost their tight end to the NFL, then 4 on the defense. Your defensive tackle, your edge, and 2 linebackers. So I think there's going to be a drop-off here, especially from a pressure perspective. And I think this defense is going to take a step back. I mean, they lost some really, really talented players. They're like relying, they need some depth guys to step up. And they're relying on like a lot of the power 4 cast-offs that either did nothing or were just not productive in the portal. I don't think this is the right year to do that. I just don't see a ton of talent on this roster. Nico Iamaleava comes in from Tennessee. I'm not a fan. I mean, if you like Nico, then you like it. But this guy had 5 touchdowns in 6 games versus winning FBS teams last year with the Tennessee offense. Now you have the UCLA offense, who loses its top 2 backs. You lose a bunch of receivers. You lost a tight end to the NFL. And then your offensive line. I know there's a ton of injuries. They were shifting around a lot. But look at the guys they brought in. I don't believe in any of them. I mean, Ford, Armella, their right tackle to Giorgio, he's solid. You get your center back and Yoon, who was hurt, but this offensive line could be real bad again. And then defensively, lost a bunch of guys to the NFL. I mean, they're going to really miss Schlesinger, Adriano at linebacker. You had some guys, Perry and Chisholm, meh. That's a drop off. And then in the secondary, your top 6 are gone. You bring in guys like Stafford from Miami, didn't really play. Martin from Arizona State didn't play. Jordan from Oregon State, he's okay. Key Lawrence has a ton of experience, at least. threats from UCF, meh. So, I know that the defense gets Smith back from injury. They just added a Rice transfer at the defensive line. I don't think they're really confident in their group. I don't like this team at all. I just didn't like a lot of what they did. This wasn't the year to rely on the portal if you're a team like UCLA. Last year they had 5 wins. They went 5-2 in one possession games. Their 5 wins were by 23 points over Hawaii, Rutgers, who had a ton of injuries, Nebraska, Iowa, their quarterback got hurt, Fresno, who had a ton of injuries. They did lose to USC and Minnesota late, to be fair, but they were pretty lucky in one possession games. They got to 5 wins. I'm not a Nico guy. I think his defense takes a step back. The weapons, not really a believer in. The offensive line is still going to be bad. I mean, the only gimmies on the schedule are New Mexico at home and maybe Maryland. But you get Maryland in the second half. I mean, this is a vicious schedule. One of the 10 hardest in the country. You only get 4 Big 10 home games, although one road game is at USC. But because you have to go to Northwestern and to Michigan State. You would rather have those games at home. You're hosting Penn State. You're hosting Nebraska. You're going to Ohio State. You're going to USC. You're hosting Washington. You're going to Indiana. There's some tough travel. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if this team went 3-9. Under for me. I mean, I'm super low on this team. I think, what do I project them at? I'm at 4.2. So I'm definitely a significant amount lower than the market.
Yeah.
Who is fading the shit out of them week 1 against Utah.
Well, yeah, that was the very first play that went into the action app. Was I took Utah minus 130 week 1 against UCLA, and I think that was last week of April. I put that in. That number's long gone. I don't know what's going on with the Iamaleva family. I mean, there's some serious Lonzo Ball stuff going on here. Madden Iamaleva is going to be the backup quarterback at UCLA. He was at Arkansas and was supposed to challenge Taylor Green for the starting position, but Dad said no. You were joining your brother in the portal and you're coming out to UCLA. I heard the numbers that Nico was looking for in the portal. They were laughable, but UCLA bit. And I think it's one of the worst transfer portal moves in all of Power 4. He had 0 escapability, a 26% pressure to sack ratio. Now he gets an offensive line that could be the worst in the Big 10. A hodgepodge of journeyman portal players with limited experience. I mean, Foster's claiming this is going to be a balanced offense with Tino Sinceri coming, but Tino Sinceri is known for being with Cignetti and calling a power run game. Not really so much passing the ball. Nico can't escape pressure whatsoever. He's got, cinder blocks for feet. And so we're going to rely on the running game, which is running back Jalen Berger. I mean, he's had a decline in his yards after first contact every single stop from Wisconsin to Michigan State. Javian Thomas at Cal, 3.1 yards after first contact, a low rate of creating missed tackles. I don't see it in this offense whatsoever. If you're going to be ground-based with Tino Sinceri, at least have some running backs that could do that, and you don't. So you're going to end up in passing downs, and then you're going to see Nico's feet, and then I just don't see a lot coming out of this offense. Defense, you've already mentioned. They lost their top 11 tacklers. The secondary is all from the portal, from Oregon State, Miami, UCF, Ole Miss. No improvement expected from the front 7 after ranking 114th in pass rush. I mean, I would think Malo, the defensive coordinator, he's in his second year here. They finished 123rd in defensive finishing drives. Arguably a better defense last year than they have now. There's not much room to go down in defensive finishing drives, but we're headed there. And I think UCLA is an unmitigated disaster. I think being the only school, I mean, just think about this. You're the only school that opened up your wallet for Nico. Nico was shopped everywhere. Everywhere. I heard the numbers. I heard the teams. And UCLA bit on the number that they wanted. And then Madden got pulled out of Arkansas because Dad was like, we're all going to LA to live the LA life. Utah is going to pound the shit out of them. You're going to put Nico against Morgan Scalley's 4.25 in week 1. Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, under for me on UCLA. Not a fan this year. I think it's going to be a long year. Let's move on to Northwestern. Northwestern, you can go over 3.5 Super Juice or over 4. Even money is out there. 80 to 1 to make the playoffs, 500 to 1 to win the Big Ten. It's an interesting team. They brought in Preston Stone, former SMU quarterback.
You love him.
I love Preston Stone. I think he's finally healthy. They get their running backs back. They lose both their top receivers, one to the NFL. Big question mark at receiver. Stone is a great deep ball. Does he have the receivers to get the ball? That is a major question. Their receivers, it's like they brought him to Stanford, a South Dakota State transfer. The offensive line has some questions. They have a really good tackle back. They do get their center back from injury. The backup was horrible. Their one of their tackles is gone, who was horrible. I like a couple of the transfers they brought in. Their offensive line has some potential, but they got to figure it out. Defensively, I like the defensive line. I like the room there. Linebacker, you have some guys back and added some guys in the portal who I liked. The secondary needs some young guys to step up. Although I like Davis, the Jacksonville State corner transfer who started his career at Clemson, but you lost a lot. You lost a safety to Baylor, a corner to Oregon, and then Coco Azima, who wasn't great, but he was there for 6 years. Can't believe it just feels weird that he's not going to be in the back end of that defense. I think the D is going to be fairly salty. It's bend but don't break to the extreme. But there's questions. Wide receiver in particular, one of the tackle spots. And then they're going to have youngish DBs or, guys coming up a level. Last year, they only beat Maryland and Purdue in Big Ten play. This year, they have a tough Big Ten slate. They do have 5 Big Ten home games, but 3 are on the lake and 2 are at Wrigley. The good thing is there's not a lot of traveling overall. Like they go to USC, but other than that, they kind of are in a box. After week 1 at Tulane, but that's week 1. So there's not a ton of traveling here. Their first 5 are pretty manageable. You're at Tulane. They're going to be dogs, but they could win that game. Western Illinois at home, UCLA at home. We just talked about them. ULM at home. So, then they go to Penn State, which they're going to lose. There's a chance that they could start 3-3 if everything goes right. They steal that game at Tulane.
That number is short, and it's moving towards Northwestern.
4-2. Yeah, I like them week 1. I've been waiting for pods to bet my week 0 and week 1 on the app, and
I think that one's moving.
Yeah, I'm mad I didn't get 7. So, I project 4.4. So their implied is like close to 4. So I would lean over here with Northwestern. I think that they're going to get Western Illinois. I think they're going to get UCLA. I think they're going to get ULM at home. That's 3 wins. I think they're good for 1. And then you're going to have Purdue at home as well. Like, there's your 4 wins, in my opinion. Can they get 1 more? Minnesota at home. There's some opportunities here. It's over or nothing for me with Northwestern. Definitely some questions on this team. It's not going to bring in a ton of talent, but I think they upgraded a quarterback with Stone. And, there's some things I like about this team. Obviously not the most talented, but I think they can – I think this is at least a 4-win team.
But you got to find – so the schedule, I couldn't really find 4 wins, and that's the problem.
What do you mean? Western Illinois, UCLA,
okay,
ULM, and Purdue. How's that not 4 wins?
I make UCLA like higher, like a touch. I like from
you make UCLA a touchdown favorite at Northwestern.
I'm not saying I believe in it. I'm just looking at the number.
That's it. I make Northwestern against UCLA -1.
Yeah. Okay. Listen. Preston Stone has got to be the version of himself 2 years ago when he had 33 big-time throws and 13 turnover-worthy plays, right? He's got to be the 2023 version. This South Dakota State infusion, which might as well call them the South Dakota State East Wildcats, offensive line, receivers, Griffin Wild. They lined up. He lines up in the slot. He was and in the wideout. He was a multi-purpose tool, and he had 3.2 yards per route run. So there is the ability here for Northwestern to have a little bit of flash. Their top 4 running backs return. There's nothing special about Cam Porter or Joseph Himmons' numbers, but there's stability there. You return your middle linebacker, 85 tackles, led the team, 2 sacks, and a PBU. There's a next-level potential in Anto Saka, from what we're hearing, at edge, creating 27 pressures last year. The 2-deep secondary has experience. There are 5 PBUs by John Fusel. There's experience here. It's does the South Dakota State system from an offensive perspective finally translate to success? Because defensively, David Braun had that going day one. Western Illinois, ULM wins. Purdue, I make a coin flip. I'm guessing you make Northwestern higher. I guess you and I just have a big difference in power rating here. I'm having a harder time getting to it. I'm not saying that Northwestern isn't alive against UCLA. I definitely would not take UCLA. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, they'll be like 6-7 versus Purdue at home. I mean, obviously, these is huge roster turnovers, quarterback turnovers. It could change drastically by the time they play. But that's what I have it right now.
I tell you what, in week one, I don't make this spread 6 what it is in the market against Tulane. So if I was to adjust my power rating on Northwestern and bump them and to make it even with what the market is right now, I'd be over 4. I think, I mean, they didn't get any big bumps from an experience perspective for me. So, and I don't have them much far off from their PR that they ended with last year. So that's why the number in the market confuses me. Like even SP Plus, I think makes it 12. So I'm not really exactly sure where this huge Northwestern bump came from. But I guess if you translate Preston Stone's numbers from 2 years ago, that's where you get the bump.
Yeah, I mean, I bumped them from end of last year. Yeah, I bumped them 4 points.
So there's the difference.
4.5 actually.
It's so much fun with these quarterbacks that like take a year off but had elite numbers 2 years ago, or FCS quarterbacks. Like, what do you do with those numbers?
Yep. But yeah, wide receiver is definitely a big question for me.
That Griffin Wild kid, though, he's a multi-purpose tool.
Yeah, but just overall, their pass catchers leave a lot to be desired. All right, let's move on to Maryland, which talk about quarterback uncertainty. Apparently, it's a 3-way competition. You have 2 Martins, a UCLA transfer. The other Martin, he apparently won the spring. He was considered to be like the third, but he was like the MVP of spring. And then you have, who's I think going to be the starter, but he's dealing with like injuries now in Washington, the stud freshman. He was number 5 in the 2025 class, but he's apparently dealing with some injuries. Is he going to be ready by week 1? I don't know. Loxley said he's not going to name a starter until the Sunday before the first game against FAU.
He won't even know then.
This is a team outside the top 100 in returning production. They only have a handful of returning starters. He lost Hemby at running back. They lost 2 wide receivers to the NFL. But it's Maryland. You're always going to have good pass catchers. Like they brought in Farouk and Webb. Smith's back. They brought in a tight end I like, and Fleming. Their offensive line is just going to be a disaster again. Like Maryland is good pass catchers. They can't get an offensive line. Like they're all bad. Like I know that there's guys back and some guys back from injury, but you might have a tackle from previously at Shorter, and then they added a tackle from Central Connecticut State. Like your tackles in the Big 10 are going to be from Central Connecticut State and Shorter.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not going to get it done. And their offensive line last year was so bad. I don't see it getting much better. Defensively, you lost 5 to the NFL. You lost a linebacker, you lost 2 defensive linemen, and you lost a pair of safeties. They bring in a couple transfer cornerbacks that you're going to need to step up. Joyner from Ark State, who I think is good, but this is a step up in class. Glasgow from Wake Forest, meh. So their 9 best players on defense last year, in my opinion. 1 is back. That's it. Husky, their safety. You lost 5 to the NFL. 2 went to the portal. 1 graduated. I mean, late in the portal, they lost Johnson, their defensive lineman, to Texas. And they lost a couple other guys. Wyatt to Indiana, they were counting on at defensive end. Brown at defensive end. Wheatland, he transferred. So they got gutted. They're still recruiting at a decently high level, but
Loxley's always had that.
Yeah, it's
they can't keep him after 2 years though.
Yeah, they're all bolting. There's a ton of questions on this team. A lot of excitement with the quarterback, but with Malik Washington, the top number 5 in the 2025 class.
Mm-hmm.
Schedule-wise, you should start 3-0. FAU, NIU, and Towson at home, and that's good for brand new team and a true freshman quarterback potentially. And then you're at Wisconsin, you host Washington, you host Nebraska, you're at UCLA. There's some winnable games on this roster. They avoid Oregon, they avoid Ohio State, they avoid Penn State, and they host Michigan. They do have 5 Big 10 road games, but one of them's at Ford Field. New coordinators here. There was a lot of NIL drama last year, and this team quit and did not like each other. This team is some of these teams with just massive turnover and a true freshman quarterback. Mm-hmm. They're hard for me to power rate. But I project win total over 4.5 plus money, plus 105. You want to go over is the best you can find out there. So you're looking at implied win total, I don't know, around like 4.25, 4.3. I project like 4.1. So nothing for me on Maryland. How about you?
I'm at 3.9, so I go under. I mean, if you're having a culture issue and people don't like each other, you're bringing in NFL quarterback coach Pep Hamilton so that he can develop Justin Martin or freshman Malik Washington. So maybe that helps culture a little bit. You bring in Jalil Farouk, a guy that had a bunch of years at OU, 1.7 yards per route run in 2023. He was injured last year. Everybody at OU was. And slot Octavian Smith gives the offense some weapons, but I mean, you're right about the offensive line. It's the numbers.
It's the same Maryland team. You got an exciting quarterback, very good weapon. They put wide receivers in the NFL like it's their every year. It seems like they have really talented wide receivers, an exciting quarterback, and then your offensive line is terrible.
Yep.
And the defense has talent, but like just will not put it all together. And
if it's the same team, they finish 127th in havoc allowed on offense, and they finish 129th in quality drives. You flip over to the defensive side. Do you know how hard it is to rank outside the top 130 in FBS? They ranked outside the top. They ranked dead last in coverage, defending explosives, 131st in quality drives, and 134th in finishing drives. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, Ted Monachino is good. He says he wants havoc from his edges into creating pressure. Well, he finished 121st in havoc last year, and the depth chart is full of inexperience, like Dylan Fontes, Nero Avery. Like, these names are like on the back of milk cartons. I mean, true freshmen here. Mathis was a highly rated defensive recruit. He's going to challenge for the jack linebacker position, but like if he develops, is he in the portal by November? The secondary has transfers from Wake, Arkansas State, and Bowling Green. Like we're dipping down to Wake and Bowling Green and Arkansas State for secondary players. That's interesting. Just find me a win after non-conference stuck. Like potentially Michigan State at the end of the year, although you're higher on Michigan State than I am. UCLA. I mean, obviously, yeah.
They could just catch someone, but they could catch someone at home, just in like a tricky travel spot that, like Washington at home. That's after Maryland's after a bye.
The worst,
like someone that just no shows in a bad spot.
And they're not going to be Illinois. That's the worst spot on the schedule. Maryland back-to-back travel, Illinois off a bye. That's bad.
Yeah, like I don't think they're beating Illinois. They're not winning at Illinois. But
maybe UCLA
or Michigan at home. Like, isn't that Michigan before the Ohio State? Is that what is Michigan?
Yeah,
schedule?
Yeah.
It's like Michigan,
November 22nd.
Is disaster. They could pull an upset at home and then like get UCLA and then start 3-0 in the non-con. And you never know with injuries on other teams, but I think this is set right. I mean, I project right around 4. I think this is a 4-win team. But Washington, maybe Washington is just that guy. We'll see. It'll be exciting to watch, or maybe it won't be.
But you and I are not going to know how the locker room, if they like each other and want to play for each other in November either. No one can answer that question.
All right, let's finish up with Purdue. Purdue, an absolute disaster last year. You want to talk about in this new era, there are certain teams that I will move from start to the beginning to the end of the year more than I've ever done it, ever. Like you can move a team 17 to 20 points from their initial power rating. I mean, look at Florida State last year. And these teams that are completely brand new, they're very difficult. Like if you're a very good player modeler, that's not my strength. Maybe you're much better than this at me. I have no idea what to do with this Purdue team. It is brand new. They have one returning starter. By the way, tell me this team who was so bad last year Their offense lost 3 to the NFL. How 3 guys from the offensive line are on NFL rosters? 5 to the Power 4. Their D lost 9 starters that all went to Power 4 teams. I think that speaks to the portal this year. Not all these Purdue guys were good guys. They couldn't win a game last year. Now all these teams are relying on the Purdue transfers. They could start 11 transfers on D. There's a world. I don't know if they will, but they could start 11 transfers on D, maybe 7 or 8 on offense. It's all brand new except for Brown is back at quarterback who played some last year. He was in the portal, came back. And then Maccabee, who's probably their best, most reliable player, running back. He's back. The rest is all new. I mean, they brought in 12 wide receivers. They lost their stud tight end to Ohio State. Their offensive line, like I said, they lost 3 to the NFL, 1 to Louisville, 1 to USC. I don't know how that happened. You want to know how little I know about this team and where I think they should be power rated? Their center is a Canadian. They went to Manitoba College or something. How do I rate him? I got to go watch some Canadian tape, some Manitoba tape. This team is just starting all over. Brand new coach, brand new coordinators, bringing in OC Henson from USC, but he didn't call plays there, air raid background. New DC comes from UNLV. One thing that we know with Barry Odom, who takes over as head coach, good special teams. Mm-hmm. So might have good special teams. He's a takeaway artist. His defense is usually specialized in getting takeaways. They only had 5 last year at Purdue, and Purdue was 0-3 in one-possession games. They lost 2 games in overtime. They were minus 14 in turnovers. But does that even matter for regression if everyone is brand new? We're talking about like 75 new players on this team. I don't know. The schedule also is brutal. Top 15 hardest schedules in the country. They should start out 2-0. So their win total is over 3 minus 130 you can find out there. So how do they get the 4 wins? Let's see. They could just be way better than anyone anticipates. That's one thing. But they should beat Ball State and SIU at home to start the year.
Yep.
So you're 2-0. A lot of optimism in West Lafayette. And then it's just brutal. USC at Notre Dame. I will say there's some good spots. So like Illinois. Can they catch someone? They should have beat Illinois last year. Or they could have. There's some good spots on this schedule. Like, so Illinois goes to Purdue, who's off of a bye, in between USC and Ohio State.
Yep.
Also, Minnesota. Can they catch Minnesota sleeping if they're quarterback play? Minnesota hosts Purdue the week after playing at Ohio State and before Nebraska. And then how about Rutgers? Can they catch Rutgers sleeping? Rutgers goes to Purdue after hosting Oregon and before going to Illinois. So can they catch one of these teams sleeping? But then they're at Michigan, Ohio State, at Washington, Indiana at home to end the year. It's hard to see them getting to 4 wins, but maybe they can catch one of these teams in a good spot. But I also just have no confidence in my power rating. I could easily be a touchdown to 10 points off to start the year. My numbers now, which I don't have a ton of confidence in, I project 3 on the dot. So nothing for me with Purdue.
Yeah,
2.99999.
Yeah, 3.2 for me. I think if there's an angle to play Purdue, the explosives against the defense should be limited. And the reason I say that is because Odom will play that 3-3-5 and sell out to stop EPA.
You bring in some guys in the secondary that have some experience, like Grimes.
Yeah.
Turner,
the entire roster is a collection of Odom stops. It's like playing the greatest hits of Odom. Like there's Arkansas players, there's UNLV players. Like he's dipped into his past spots. There's some experienced players here. Nose tackle is going to be a redshirt freshman, but he's 300 pounds. So there's some size, there's some experience from a lot of guys that weren't starters. You look at the quarterback room. Like if Ryan Brown doesn't win it, you have Malachi Singleton. Malachi Singleton filled in for Taylor Green at Arkansas. Not a great passer, but can tuck the ball and go, and was very effective in that aspect. So, I don't know what the identity is going to be. That's the ultimate question, and it could change from week to week. But I do think that you want to look under on Purdue totals early because I know Barry Odom's going to do everything that he can to sell out to stop explosive plays. It is one of his mainstays when he has showed up at UNLV and Arkansas with disaster defenses. We are going to stop EPA. Period. And, you mentioned special teams. That'll get a boost. So I do like unders, say, I haven't looked at my total for Ball State Purdue. It's at 50.5. I would probably play a first half under. Next week in Southern Illinois, probably play an under, right? So that's the play on them, but I make it 3.2. And I can't get into over 2.5 minus 180. But can they win 3 games? Absolutely. You're going to pay minus 180 for it? No. But I will play under in the first couple games till the market catches up.
Yeah, if I had to guess, they finished 3-9, but I don't have a ton of confidence in them. We'll be watching them closely early on. All right, before we close this up and then get ready to do the SEC in a couple hours, let's summarize it. Big Ten, look, with all the quarterback uncertainty, this is the conference that I show the biggest discrepancies to market in my win totals by far, as far as volume. Like overs that I may play are Penn State, USC, Indiana, Washington, Wisconsin, maybe Northwestern. Unders, I show value in Iowa, but not playing it. I will be playing Minnesota and UCLA unders.
Oregon.
I think Penn State wins the conference. My prediction is the Big Ten, which is a lot deeper this year. It's going to be some more upsets. I think that there's only 3 college football playoff teams that come from the Big Ten. That's my prediction. I think it's Penn State. I think Ohio State will get there. And then there's going to be a surprise team, and it's not Oregon.
Could be Indiana. I like Indiana overs. I like Washington over. I like Indiana over. I think the 2 long shots that I'm taking, I like Michigan and USC to make the Big Ten championship game. Michigan's plus 380 in the market. USC's plus 750. If you want to go budge on a 25-1 on USC, those 2 teams play each other. And I think that ticket, if you want to do a half unit on both, I think that ticket serves as your long shot in a conference that I think a long shot with a good schedule can make some numbers. Michigan has the perfect schedule. USC has a rising defense by far. Penn State, I think there's only one way to play them because their numbers are so juiced on win totals and Big Ten futures. I think you have to play them national championship. If you can find an 8-1, there's a couple of them out there, even at 7-1. That is a ticket that you make, and you don't even look at it till the semifinals. Because if they finish anywhere below the semifinals of the college football playoff, complete disaster of a year. We're going to play Oregon on the under. I do not like the defensive interior. I think they're going to be run on all season long. I do like the over on Rutgers 5.5. That is a very well-coached team. Kaliak Manis, year 2 in Soroka's offense. Easy non-conference schedule. And don't forget, Rutgers won 4 games outright as an underdog last year. I like it for that matter. So, a couple overs and unders, but I like USC and Michigan. Really, whoever wins that game between them, I think is going to make a rumbling at the top of the standings for the Big Ten.
Other quick reminders before we get out of here. Watch party, August 23rd, week 0, 11 a.m., doors open, Joe's in Chicago. I hope to see as many of you there as possible. 5-star reviews really help us out. Subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy. Thanks to Colin for joining me. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. College football season will be here before we know it. It's time for us to go get ready for the SEC preview, which will be out shortly. We'll see y'all there. Big 12 ACC coming out. We'll be doing that later this weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Catch y'all later. Cheers.
Peace out.